your guidance as you describe to us some of the needs that you are fulfilling. Thank you so much for joining us. So talk about your founding of the organization and the type of services that you provide.
Our organization were founded in 2013, and our founder, who was honorary consul of Ukraine, Grzegorz Dzik, he is a Polish businessman, and he really wanted to create some independent organization that will help Ukrainian migrants who fled Ukraine, like in this first wave after the start of the war, after the annexation of Crimea, and the war in Donbass when war started. So Poland got like maybe million newcomers, and a lot of cities were unprepared for this scale of migration back in the days, and then that's why he created our foundation, and that's why we are doing like our adaptational and educational activities and projects for like 8 years until now.
And I'm so glad you reminded us of this historical fact that really the Russian invasion of Ukraine not only started in 2014 when the peninsula was annexed, but before then, Russia was, just as had happened in Georgia, was beginning to impinge in the Donbass, in the Luhansk region, and there has been an attempt that has now built to this full-on war to annex and control parts of Ukrainian territory. So your founder was responding to those displaced, and even in those early days, we were talking about 1 million people who were coming over trying to figure out how to continue their lives. And that was affecting Poland in a very dramatic way.
Yes, and a lot of the majority of the people who newcomers to Poland back in the days, they were not refugees because like they were treated like economic migrants in Poland, so they were not they were not getting any help like refugees, so they just were regular people who came to Poland to work, to pay their taxes, to get an apartment and everything. So they really needed a lot of help from foundations like ours to understand how to communicate with people, how to operate in new reality, and how to deal with the like normal needs and normal problems, but normal for I'd say Polish inhabitants and inhabitants of the cities, and completely new for them.
So initially, your services were about navigating this transition. It might have been connected to language, translation. It might have been dealing with the bureaucracy, work permits, those kinds of things, getting an apartment, correct?
Exactly, yes. The first need of anyone who wants to be independent in new society is the language barrier. So we try to help them with that. And the next needs like education for children, education for adults, how to create your business or how to be treated well, I'd say, by your employer, because a lot of problems can appear when you came without knowing of the local laws to new place. So yeah, and this like info point that we created, for example, it worked till now because like new problems and questions were raised, and new people came, and from year 2016, for example, we work not only for Ukrainian migrants and refugees, but for all of migrants, because we had a big migration from Belarus. We had also a lot of workers for Polish factories, for example, from different countries of, I'd say, Eastern Bloc.
To what extent does Poland's historic experience, being first invaded by the Nazis in '39, and then this history of being pulled apart between Germany and Russia, Russia then eventually absorbing Poland into this Soviet-dominated satellite structure, and then the change that happened around the Solidarity time, and now Poland being one of the most vital democracies, one of the largest economies, having its own identity and not wishing to be again pulled apart. To what extent does that inform your early work? And then let's talk about how your organization has evolved recently. You've already indicated some changes, but we're going to take that as a second part of this question.
You know, after the Russian annexation of Crimea and the starting the war in Donbass, in Polish society, there was the rise of the solidarity towards Ukraine. But I would say that all of the emotional rises, they have their own like short time of life, I'd say. So later, the newcomers, so economical migrants from Ukraine, were treated like, for example, by businesses like often a cheap labor force, and by society sometimes like some type of rival, like in the market of the work, labor market. So like, and it wasn't so clear for Polish, maybe average citizen, that the Ukrainians who came to Poland and that Poland had some higher goal and higher mission to help Ukrainians to survive, for example, or to stay here for some time before the active part and this latest active part of our war, before this aggression, open Russian aggression from February this year. So like we were treated like the same migrants like from any other country.
So do you feel that because Poland and Ukraine share this history of having to deal with this sort of Russian appetite for controlling the population, that resulted in a shift in which it's still possible to maintain a somewhat positive relationship between Poles who might be threatened by the labor that comes in from Ukraine, and because it hasn't yet turned, and it could still turn to a very negative environment, but it hasn't yet turned, and it seems to still be at a fairly supportive level, as witnessed by your founder and how you are functioning within Poland. Do you feel that is in part because the Poles appreciate that what Ukraine has gone through, Poles have gone through, and if it is not stopped in Ukraine, it is likely to continue on to Poland?
I think yes, definitely. I think this is one of the reasons. That's why Poland is the closest partner and the most active, I'd say, partner for Ukraine right now, because of our similar experience with dealing with Russia's appetites. But I think, and also it was like all this movement and the passion and energy that were created, and all this help that was it was really unimaginable scale of help. Also, it was created by the fear that nobody knows what will be next. But right now I see some kind of shift towards the fear of some lower level of your own personal life, work, and level of your family's wealth. So I think that's why we should be prepared that this emotional reaction was a very good reaction, but it will end, and we need to work with some really strategic and long-term policies, long-term projects to make Polish people understand and remember that the threat that it's coming from Russia, it's not over, and the war is not over, and the people who came to Poland after the 24th of February, they didn't want to came to Poland. They were not economic migrants. They were not stealers of their jobs, or they didn't came to Poland to ride their trams and trains without paying for tickets. They were forced to move here, and it's like the communication. I think right now is the key, and information is the key to counteract to all the negative reactions that we will see. I'm 100% sure that we will see this negative effects, because it's normal for people to be scared about lowering of their standards of their lives.
Well, and what you're actually saying is that that's part of the Russian strategy. It's the psychological strategy, it's the economic strategy. By taking the Donbass and the ports there, you are basically creating a economic vassalage, so an economic subservience, because Ukraine requires those ports to export its grain. Ukraine requires that area to do their heavy manufacturing. Europe and the world require the food that Ukraine produces, so that creates a kind of a tariff that goes through Russian-controlled territory. And by also creating refugee problems, if you can extend that for a longer period of time, you can psychologically shift attitudes within Poland and other parts of Europe into a negative sphere, which helps the Russians in their own struggle to control that piece. So in a sense, this whole response that you're doing is a counter. It's not only supporting people, but it's also a counter to a psychological and economic warfare that is going on and being perpetrated as part of the struggle. Is that how you see it as well?
Yes, sure. I really like and always wanted to help people who are surround me, and when I came to Wrocław and when I started my my job in foundation, and previously in honorary consulate of Ukraine, like a volunteer, I wanted to help people here, but as Ukrainian, and 80% of our members in Foundation Ukraine are Ukrainians who came here before the war to study, to work, as often economic migrants. We also really want Ukraine to be free, independent, and successful country, because we have our families there. We have, some of us have our future there. I really want to work for Ukraine, and sometimes in Ukraine. So yes, what we are doing, it's 100% done with like defending Ukraine interest in mind. That it will help Ukrainians it will help Ukraine to be a part of the civilized world and to be a good partner for Poland. It will help Poland to continue their help for Ukraine, because if Russia will be successful in this, psychological campaign and also this causing humanitarian catastrophe in Europe and Poland. So that's when Poland will stop helping Ukraine on this level and will be forced to deal with their own problems. So that's what we are doing right now. We are helping Poland to deal with problems with refugees, with these humanitarian problems. Also, we help Ukraine by sending a lot of humanitarian aid there. And we really hope that Polish government and Europe, like governments in Europe and people in Europe, will understand that Ukrainians and Ukraine, they have a really, they already did a lot to be a part of Europe and part of free Europe, not Russian vessel, not Russian colony, because we were, and we really know what it likes, and we don't want to be a part of the Russian army when Russia will attack, because like it was this time of the history that Russia did that, attacked other countries in Europe. So like we really fight for our freedom, but we also try to be a good partner and try to be a part of the Europe. So yes, we are working toward that goal.
So if you could describe how your services today function and the range of services, and then if you could talk about where you see those services evolving in the future, that would just be great.
In year 2014, when I became president of the board of Foundation Ukraine, we had one project for like 200,000 zlotys, and it was the 1-year project, and 3 members of foundation. And what we were doing back then, it was some, I'd say, workshops for Ukrainian migrants, for 100, maybe 150 of them, to understand the local rules and laws and like the basics of this Polish reality, I'd say, which was new for them. Since then, we developed a new departments. Right now, it's 7 of them of foundation, based, and that were doing the activities and projects based on the needs of migrants. And from, as I mentioned before, from year 2016, for example, we started our work for all of the migrants. So, for example, our informational point started to their consultations in 4 languages. It's like Polish, English, Ukrainian, and Russian for like majority of migrants in Wrocław. And since then, we grew up to almost 100 members of foundation. Also, right now we have more than 2,000 volunteers only in Wrocław, and our budgets, annual budgets, right now is on the level of 3 to 4 million zlotys. So, but it was long travel, a long road for us to, and right now we have a good partnership with all the branches of local government and some of central government representation in our voivodeship. and good partners in other NGOs and some businesses, local businesses in Wrocław.
You've scaled up considerably over this time. Where do you see this going forward? Because as for me, this war is not going to have a quick end. I think there's going to end up being a stalemate. I don't think that the Ukrainians will give up territory in the Donbass and Luhansk. Whether that happens in Crimea is another open question, but I think that economically it starts to make the country untenable to deprive itself of its access to its ports and its productive facilities down in the southern region. So this is going to continue for quite a while. Where do you see the future of your organization evolving toward?
The war with Russia wasn't started this year or even 8 years ago, because the tryings of Russia to be a third Rome, as they call it, to be a great imperium in this part of the world, has a long history, and Ukraine was struggling with this ambition, and were fighting for its own independence and for its own fate for more than 300 years. And right now we clearly see the biggest chance in our history to defend our independence, to defend our ambitions, to be a great European nation and successful European nation. And against all odds, we want to defend our land, our people, and our future for our nation, for our children. So I think right now we want to, Ukraine wants to do that, and we as Ukrainians and also Poles in our foundation, we understand that this will not end soon, but we are ready to a long time perspective fighting in our field, in our area, and we really see we will continue our projects to send humanitarian aid to Ukraine, to send to fundraise, to provide fundraisers, and to send equipment for Ukrainian hospitals, for example, or for Ukrainian cities, which will help to defend their cities and to help people. We will continue our work here in Poland with helping migrants and refugees who come in here. Also, we will really, we want to help Ukrainian students, for example, youngsters who will come here to grow as the European specialists, managers, and skilled people, because partially they will rebuild Ukraine in the future. So our goal is to continue and grow and to continue our activities toward the, I think, development of the new big European nation, free European nation, and also with defending the country that this nation will live in.
What you're pointing out is that this is a civil society struggle for understanding, for cross-cultural, cross-border collaboration, for mutual support, and that struggle is just as important as any other part of this struggle. If we're going to have a peaceful world, you are part of it. Artem Zozulia, thank you so much for sharing the work that you have done as president of the Foundation Ukraine. And please thank your numerous volunteers, your staff, your leadership, your funders. You are doing wonderful work, and it is important work. If we're going to have the world that we wish to live in, then we all have to behave in the way that you are modeling for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you a lot for your attention to us, for your sharing with the world about Ukraine and our deeds and our struggles. Thank you for the excellent translation, Mr. Jan, and I really appreciate it, and I wish you a good day or evening, and we will build a better future for all of us. Thank you for your share of your job.
Thank you. Take care.